Hello, Acadiana. Welcome to the Veterans Corner, and thank you for inviting us back into your home today. I'm Greg Gagne, veteran representative, and I'm with the Louisiana Workforce Commission and Acadiana Works. And I'm one of 3 veteran representatives in this area, Mr. Tim Jack out of New Iberia, Mr. Mark Guillory here in Lafayette, and myself out of Opelousas. And together we work as a team, and we cover 8 parishes from St. Mary up to Evangeline. Now our mission is to bring the employees and veterans of Acadiana together. And we do this by assisting the employee with various resources, such as many job fairs, workshops, seminars, on-the-job training programs. And after providing these resources and working with them, we hope that a veteran will be hired. So if you are a veteran, or you know of a veteran, and especially if you are a disabled veteran, give me a call at 948-1377, ask for Greg, we'll make it happen. And at the same time, spread the word around about the Veterans Corner. Now, if you're an employer who wishes to participate on the Veterans Corner, give me a call at 948-1377, and we too shall make it happen. Now, I'd like to put out a special request to the family of Acadiana that if we would like for you to submit a photo of your veteran loved one, and what we'd like to do is honor and recognize them for their valiant service in defending America. And to do this, send a photo to ggagne@lwc.la.gov. All right, now on to our guest. Today I'm very honored to be on the same show with Congressman Boustany, and he's here today to share some information with us about the VA clinics, and hopefully he can enlighten us about a couple of things.
Greg, it's really good to be with you, and I'm really happy to join you on Veterans Corner, and thank you for what you're doing on behalf of our veterans, providing a service that I think they'll find very valuable. And I deeply appreciate the opportunity to use this forum to help to try to communicate to our veterans out there on some of the things we're working on. It's no secret that veterans' health is critically important. It's an important issue for me in this community as I look at Lafayette, Lake Charles, and the Congressional District, and making sure that our veterans have access to the finest health care available. We have a small clinic here. We've not had a clinic historically in Lake Charles, and we're working very hard to get 2 up-to-date clinics, one in Lake Charles, one in Lafayette, up to speed here. And the problem we've had is with a number of bureaucratic delays and difficulties. The latest has been in dealing with the Congressional Budget Office and the way they're going to calculate the cost of the clinic. They wanted to calculate a full 20-year cost into 1 year for the 12 clinics that were under consideration, which then made it very difficult for us to deal with. And I'm very pleased, very pleased that when the Senate passed its budget proposal, there was an amendment put in there that is a sense of the Senate that the cost ought to be considered on a year-by-year basis as an operating lease, not a capital cost type of calculation, which would put the entire 20-year cost into 1 year. That's a good step forward. I'm working on the House side with some previous precedents that have been set that would allow us to shift the way that's calculated. And so we're working on that process and trying to get the congressional leadership to move forward. And my thoughts are, if they won't move forward using this method, which has been used before, then they will be to blame for not allowing the 2 clinics here in this congressional district to go forward, plus 10 other clinics that are under consideration. And all future clinics, for that matter, for our veterans. They will be putting an obstruction in place to health care for our veterans. And so I'm going to work and push them very hard to help us break this impasse.
Well, there are really that number of barriers that's coming before us. I mean, you got people out there that really, let's put it like this, do they love America and love veterans, or do they?
Well, that's what it comes down to, Greg. I mean, it's, okay, on one hand, do you love our veterans? Do you deeply appreciate the sacrifice that they made for this country? Or do you put more value on this nonsense and this bureaucracy that exists in Washington? That's pretty easy for me. It's pretty easy for me. I side with our veterans. And we're going to do everything we can to knock down these barriers.
Well, I'll tell you what, I understand that. I know for myself, through personal experience, when I left the service after the Vietnam stuff, seemed like Congress didn't even want to mess with us.
Well,
But I'm saying, but around 40 years later, they're finally starting to do something with us.
I think there's a personal level of thanks that every American should give to the Vietnam veterans of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. That was the only time in American history when we had returning veterans who fought for our country who were treated so poorly by the American public and by the U.S. government. And thanks to the dignity and the fortitude of our Vietnam veterans and what they stood for and the difficulties they had to withstand, they have now guaranteed that forever going forward in American history, our veterans will never be treated that way. And I tell you, as a member of Congress, I'm going to work hard to make sure that we always honor our veterans, put them at the top of the list when it comes to their needs.
Yeah. Well, I do know that you are really involved with the veterans on a very high level. And I know you're passing some bills, I think, trying to pass some bills through.
Right.
And, but of course, locally here, our concern is more or less, like I said, the clinics and or even like the Marsh Regional Hospital and what are we doing here? And from my own personal opinion, what happened, this is just me, of course, what happened like with the Lafayette Hospital we were supposed to get, and at the last minute we didn't get it, and now all of a sudden we building a hospital down in New Orleans, which we was fussing about, not doing it because it cost too much.
Right.
And so really for me, I'm sure like for many other veterans out there, we're at a loss as to what's going on, because we're traveling between here and Alexandria for the hospital, or even going from here to Houston.
That's right.
You know, traveling back and forth.
Well, that's just unacceptable. And you know, when I first took office in 2005, it was pretty clear to me that veterans in the western part of the congressional district, Calcasieu Parish, Cameron, were having to go to Texas to get basic care, and certainly for specialty care all the way into Houston. We had far too many veterans here in Lafayette and the eastern part of the district that were having, beyond any basic care at the small clinic here in Lafayette, they were having to go to Alexandria, and then for more complex surgery, either Houston or Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of travel, a lot of expense incurred by veterans, a hardship on their families, and it was wrong. And they were threatening to close the VA clinic in Jennings at the time.
They were?
Oh yeah. And they had slated it to be closed, and I told them they were going to close it over my dead body. We managed to keep that clinic open.
Mm-hmm.
And got the process started to expand the clinic here and get the clinic set up in Lake Charles. Then we had a bureaucratic problem with the VA in the contracting process, which set us back a year. The VA took full responsibility, which is one thing to say, yes, we take responsibility, but they haven't followed that up with action. Now, I've asked General Shinseki, who is Secretary of VA, to take personal responsibility for this. And I'm disappointed by the fact that he has not stepped up and followed the apology with real action to expedite this. So as we were working through this, we got back on track, and then we had this budget problem that we're still trying to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And we've made some positive steps. I have introduced legislation in the House of Representatives that I'm going to use to sort of as a club to beat our leadership with,
Mm-hmm.
to say, let's get this done.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are today.
Because I know, in fact, just this morning, a veteran called me. He moved from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
His job, or rather the business, was from Georgia. They terminated him because of lack of work. So he's back here, and he's calling up, wanting to know, or rather he lost his health care, and he wanted to know what I can do to help him find insurance. I said, did you apply, did you file a claim with the VA? He said, I did it, but this is some years ago out of Florida. I said, more likely it's still in the database.
Yeah.
So what we need for you to do is go down to the VA clinic here and refile and get your DD-214, whatever he has to do. But I'm saying all that to say this, I'm surprised at the number of veterans that come through our offices that have no idea what services and benefits that they really have.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's sad that as someone transitions out of active duty into the private sector, for some reason there's a gap in the information that they're being provided, and they're not really being informed about the steps they can take to enroll under VA programs, what their eligibility would be. And there are resources. You provide resources here through the Workforce Commission. Our congressional office provides resources and information. And I would ask all veterans that, especially those coming out of active duty, or veterans who may not have applied to the VA for whatever reasons, to look into the opportunities, see what kinds of benefits you might be able to avail yourselves of, and contact us. Use us as a resource, because we're there.
Yes.
That's why we're there.
Yes.
And I know my office, I know you try to reach out as much as you can.
Yeah.
But I want to let veterans know there are ways for them to reach out.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, this was, I really thank you for the information. This is going to end our first segment. Our guest today is Mr. Stephen Schroeder. He is the Veteran Assistant Counselor, and he is with the Louisiana Department of Veteran Affairs, and he's here today to share with us the various services that he provides to Acadiana and to the veterans. Stephen, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Greg.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, I know you have a lot of programs out there, so share with us some of the services you provide to the Acadiana region.
Sure. Well, again, as Greg said, I'm with the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs, and I am the Veterans Assistant Counselor for Lafayette Parish. Greg, some of the things that what we actually do in our department is we help veterans and their dependents basically sign up for benefits that they are entitled through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
Yeah, yeah.
Mainly it can be something as simple as signing up to be seen in a VA medical center or clinic, as the one in Lafayette.
Yeah.
We also help them in terms of those veterans who have incurred injuries while on active duty, signed up for what we call service-connected disability.
Okay.
Another is we assist with pension claims as well.
Okay. I know my father was assisted with a prior counsel such as yourself, so I know what that means. So what else?
Well, a lot of things, first thing I want to let everyone know is that every parish has one of these offices there. And if you're not sure where it is, please contact your local government, office,
yes.
and ask them where the Veterans Assistant Counselor office is in your parish.
Right.
Okay.
So for 64 parishes, we do have places where we can get in touch with a Veteran Affairs officer, and they are there to help us and assist us in any way that we can to help you fill your needs. So one of the major services that you really provide that you can share with me?
Okay, sure. The biggest service we provide is actually, as we said, helping those veterans, either some returning from Afghanistan at this time, or even those back as far as Vietnam and World War II. We help them file what we call a service-connected claim for injuries or disabilities that were incurred while they were on active duty.
Okay. Because I know a lot of guys come to my office, and sometimes they're service-connected, and I usually sit down with them and try to help them with the services that I provide, and that is basically trying to find a job for them if you can. But at the same time, if they are disabled, we work with them and we pass information on, and we refer them to an individual such as Stephen here, and they will take the next step in helping them provide services to them. For myself, I help the veteran on an individual basis, trying to make them job ready for employment, of course, and that way we more or less kind of bouncing off each other.
Absolutely.
We cover all the bases if we can,
Absolutely.
But I know you guys, I know another vet rep in this area, counselor. I don't want to mention her name, she doesn't like that. But anyway, but when it comes to say, like even for death certificates, or what type of information can you provide when you're looking for, say, a veteran that's coming in, or a spouse or whatever, requiring information about assistance with death benefits?
Okay, good question. We're talking death benefits. A lot of times that's referring to the fact that the veteran has passed away.
Okay.
There are several things that can go into that. One, if the veteran was receiving compensation or pension from the VA, there's a good chance that a portion of the funeral could be paid for. What they will need to bring with them when they see me is basically one, a copy of the death certificate.
Okay.
A copy of the DD-214 or discharge paperwork from the
Okay.
veteran's military service.
Okay.
Also a copy of the marriage license.
All right.
Okay. And the funeral receipt showing paid in full.
Okay.
If they can bring those things into me, we probably can assist them in terms of whether the widow is entitled to any benefits.
Okay.
As I said earlier, a portion of the funeral being paid for.
About what kind of portion are you talking about?
It varies. It can vary depending on whether the member died of what they were service connected for.
Okay.
Or if they were receiving pension, smaller portion, but some of it can also be paid back.
Okay.
Also keep in mind, as we said, there are various programs
Yes.
through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs that a lot of people don't know, and we can be talking for hours.
That's right.
But to kind of narrow that down, say a person who's receiving service-connected compensation from the VA dies of what they were service-connected for.
Okay.
And has a surviving spouse. That spouse may be entitled to what we call DIC, death and indemnity compensation.
All right.
What that will do is pay her an amount for the rest of her life.
Rest of her life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And keep in mind, there are various things that qualifies for that.
Okay, now just bring up a scenario.
Mhm.
The veteran dies and he has remarried the second wife. Does the first wife get any benefits if he has been remarried?
Okay.
That's,
Good
sometimes
question.
that come up.
Good question. It does come up.
Yeah.
With the VA, understand, divorce severs all ties. The majority of the
Severs
cases.
all ties, okay.
So if that veteran has divorced from one and married again, those VA benefits that may
Was in
be
place.
in place or a spouse may be entitled to goes to the one he's married to now.
Okay. And what about his previous children, say? Do they get anything involved in that? Do they get any?
Previous children?
Yes.
Now,
I'm just getting.
yeah, we're getting a little deep on some
putting you
things.
on the spot there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. But if you're talking about a case where the dependents are under the age of 18, or perhaps from 18 to 25 or 26 and in college, there could be some benefits that they are entitled to.
Okay.
But always remember, it depends on the veteran's status and what he was receiving from the VA.
Oh, okay. Also, when it gets involved with the VA, I know for myself, I'm dealing with various programs, and one of the various programs that I'm involved with is the VRAP program. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Now, do veterans come to you sometimes?
They do, but how it is now with the Department of Veterans Affairs to apply for the VRAP program, actually they want them to do that online through e-benefits now.
Okay.
So at this time in our office, unless it's extremely slow and we're going to create an account, or they already have an account set up, they have to do that at home or on a computer that has internet access.
Okay. Now, something else I've just learned too, not just learned, but made me aware of, is the fact that if for some reason, if I was to assist a veteran in getting hired, like on an assistant training program, that they can also use their GI Bill as an additional benefit, an additional stipend, I guess you can say.
Yes, absolutely.
That will help them during that transition of the phase of an apprenticeship program. Of course, that's working with the employer. And in this situation, it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Absolutely.
You know, so is there any other little particular program that you might want to bring to the table?
You touched on education, so
Yes.
let me touch on that a little bit. And that gets broad also.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are familiar with the GI Bill.
Yes, of course.
Basically, in terms also with post 9/11 benefits.
Okay.
And that is a program that is basically designed for veterans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Along with that, there are other programs as well. One is what we call Chapter 35 benefits.
Okay.
Those are for the dependents of a veteran who either died while on active duty, okay, died of what he was service connected for,
Okay.
okay, or is at this time 100% disabled through the VA. He and the veteran's children and spouse may be entitled to what we call Chapter 35. Okay. Chapter 35 will pay a monthly stipend for his dependents to go to school.
A monthly stipend, how much would that be about?
It can vary a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully in a full-time it can be anywhere, and I'll just give you a little range, anywhere from $900 to $1,000 a month.
Oh, that's not bad. Well, I tell you what, I hate to kind of end this kind of short, but this segment is kind of coming to an end right quick.
Sure.
But I really want to thank Stephen for coming in and sharing some information with us. And I'm sure we got to come back and meet together again in the future, you know. So this ends this segment rather, and thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back. Thank you. I would like to take this time to thank the Louisiana Workforce Commission, Acadiana Works, and the AOC staff for giving us the opportunity to present this program to the Acadiana region. Thank you.